It's raining today, again, so I guess it's kind of a perfect day to stay at home and talk about really lengthy things. I'm gonna talk about finding a job in London, and it's gonna be quite a long one with a lot of data, so yeah, I guess this is the perfect timing. If you don't wanna watch the whole thing, I'll just paste somewhere like the links to timings, and I'll put the links to timings in the description as well. So if you just want to hear about CV, just click on the CV and so on and so forth. And I might just do this now. So if you moved to London and are trying to find a job here, here's a few things that might help you out. London is a big city, and it is true that it's a city of opportunities. There's literally hundreds of thousands of jobs out there, but there's also millions of people going for them, whose skill level is also a bit higher than an average Eastern European village cafe clientele. So if you're in for a job hunt, you're in for an adventure. I moved to London about 2 years ago. I didn't know anyone. All I had was the money that I got from the car I sold back home and some emergency backup from my parents. So the first thing I did was I printed a few dozen copies of my CV and went to every local pub and restaurant and left it there. So a month of that didn't show any results, as no one wanted to take me in, except for a club that took me in for a test, which turned out to be an evening of free dishwashing for them. All the time I was also sending CVs online, and it took me about 3 months and between 300 and 400 sent applications to finally get a job. In a way I was lucky because the job was in my profession, but I was very close to giving up and start packing. On the other hand, my fiancée got her first job in just 2 weeks. So this either means that I'm a useless idiot or that there's a bigger market for pharmacists than video editors. I don't want my story to discourage you. I'm just trying to say that it is no fairy tale, and if you want to get a job in your profession, you should be prepared for anything. So I then left my job for a better one in a startup company, which was pretty much ideal, but it sadly went down with the ship as the company didn't manage to secure sufficient funds. And it then took me additional 5 months and some 500 applications to get my current job. In the meantime, I worked for a catering company and earned just enough to pay the bills. And I met some really interesting people. And I occasionally worked for the royal family. It's quite cool, actually.
Willy, shit and fuck and tits.
So that's my story. Now let's get to the core. You will need a few things to get a job in London. So you'll need a CV, a cover letter, an internet connection, time, discipline, and a strong will. And a national insurance number and a bank account. In order to get the national insurance number, you'll need a proof of address and a personal document. It's really simple. I'll put the link in the description. There's a phone number that you call and make an appointment. That's it. It gets a bit more complicated with banks, but nothing is impossible. For this you will need the national insurance number, a personal document, and a proof of address. Banks like to complicate, so if you don't have a contract with a real estate agency, it might be a bit harder. Okay, you are now eligible to start working in the UK, so let's get cracking. I would suggest you designate a few hours every day just to apply for jobs. Make it the first thing in the morning maybe, so your head is fresh and your energy is high. Consider finding a job, the process of finding a job. You understand. Let's start with the CV. I'm not going to preach about the design and form of a CV, as there's countless websites that do that way better than me. Instead, I want to talk about the content. First thing, you want to keep the CV short. Don't write a 6-page essay on your life story, but rather a thorough list of your skills and achievements that you've acquired doing a certain job or jobs. If you work for, let's say, some well-known people or businesses, don't forget to mention them. Don't be afraid of adapting your CV for certain job. Yes, it does take time and energy, but you're after a job that will pretty much help you survive, so put some effort into it.
If somebody hires you to do anything and they pay you money that you then go live your life with, you should really want to do whatever they need,
If a certain job, let's say, requires certain skills, maybe put those skills higher in your CV so that your potential future employee sees them immediately. They go through hundreds of CVs, so make sure you make their work easier. Also, on that note, try and be creative so that it stands out just a little bit. The cover letter. You will need a cover letter for mostly every job, but I wouldn't suggest writing one universal one and then just paste it everywhere. What I did, and it helped a lot, is I wrote a cover letter for myself, writing down all the stuff that I'm good at, companies that I worked for, and so on and so forth, and then just had it open for reference when I was applying for jobs. You should always write a fresh cover letter that fits exactly the role you're applying for. Read thoroughly what is expected from the role and then write your cover letter so that you describe exactly how you fit every requirement listed, and wherever possible provide the proof. For instance, if you're a video editor and they require someone with experience in fashion video, you would write down that you have experience in that area because you've worked for this and that company at this and that time, and then paste the link to the video. Try not to brag too much, but rather get to the point, but don't be too modest either. And make sure you make a research about the company you're applying to. Mention a thing or two about what it is you like that they do, make it a bit personal. Again, be brief and to the point. It's a job pitch, not a narrative essay. Where to search for jobs? There's quite a few job searching websites, so this shouldn't be a problem. Sadly, the romantic times of knocking on doors and delivering your CV is slowly coming to an end, as lots of companies insist of only applying for a job via internet and won't even consider taking your CV in a physical form, at least in my experience, as I've been sent off from the receptions a few times. Some companies even advertise on their websites that they only accept applications via email and ask you not to call in to ask about it. But back to the point, the websites. I will paste the links in the descriptions, again, as there's too many of them to list them all. I guess the main ones are Indeed, Reed and Monster, and then you have countless websites that are specialized for certain professions or purposes. For instance, InternWise, which is for finding internships, or Film and TV Pro and Production Base, which are specialized for film and TV productions. So check the descriptions below and find the one that suits you. Or even better, Google. There's absolutely nothing in this video that you can't find on Google.
You didn't say the magic word.
One thing you might consider when searching for a job is the location. I wouldn't search for anything that's more than an hour of commuting away from where you're at. I once had a job that took 2 hours of driving in each direction, and it's not fun. You come to work and you're already tired, and then you still need to do like 8-hour job. If you don't care and can move closer, then just ignore what I just said. I don't really have an advice when it comes to persistency, because as I've mentioned earlier, some companies hate it if you call them every day and ask them if they got your CV and if everything is okay. But on the other hand, I have a friend who called the company every single day for a month or so and got called for an interview and eventually got the job just because the boss wanted him off his back. I think if you really want that job, you will eventually find a way. Another thing that I think is important to say is that you shouldn't feel bad if you have to work as, as a waiter, or if you get a temporary job that doesn't pay well and puts you in a role much lower than your actual skill set. It's a temporary job and you need to survive. And I'm a firm believer that if you try and find challenges in what you do, you can find any job interesting. The worst thing to do is to let your ego take over. You came to a foreign country, and if you're trying to find a job from scratch, you're starting from scratch. So be prepared to do anything that pays your rent, as London is bloody expensive. £1,000 a month will disappear I would actually suggest you try and do something completely out of your profession, as you learn a lot about yourself. And as cheesy as it sounds, it does make you a better person because it builds up your empathy. In London, connections are very, very important. It's much easier to get a job if someone gives in a word for you or gives you the direct contact, so you basically skip the line. So try making connections as soon as you can. There's a few ways of doing that. You can simply start going out and meeting people, or what I would suggest, and is probably the best way, start volunteering. Whatever it is that you want to do, find an organization or a company that does that and then volunteer for jobs. A few hours a week, just enough to get you a foot in the door. You will get to know people, they will see that you're good, and also, most importantly, you will get experience. It's important to have London working experience when searching for a job here, so it kind of makes it a catch-22 because you don't have them, but you need them, but you can't get them, so the best way to go around this is to volunteer. I, for instance, am volunteering for the local film festival, where I met a certain producer that is now a very good friend of mine, who not only gave me an opportunity opportunity to get some experience, but also got me my first IMDb credits, and it's helping me to make my first short film now. The job I have now I got completely without connections, but I couldn't have gotten it without that experience. Also, do stuff in your free time. I found that the things people were most impressed by in my showreel are the things I did for myself, like just for the love of it. Another way to get connections is to go on meetups. Again, the link is in the description. There's groups that do pretty much anything from knitting to yoga and oil painting. Check them, join them, talk to them and make connections. There's also a few things you should be careful about. There's a lot of people and companies that would like to use you, so it's good to keep a few things in mind, especially if you're applying for internship. The law regarding internship is very gray, so there's no definite answer as to whether it should be paid or not. However, if a company is searching for an unpaid full-time intern, don't go for it. You'll work 40 hours a week for no money and will have no time to earn money to survive. I would suggest a 2, maybe 3 days a week internship, and they should at least provide you money for food and travel. Also, as tempting as it is, be careful with casting agencies. They will call in pretty much everyone. They'll tell you that they have an excellent opportunity for you as an extra that's quite well paid, but only under the condition that you provide a photo portfolio, which must be made by a photographer they know. So they basically want to make money with taking photographs, and you will probably never hear from them again. I guess the rule of the thumb is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I would advise you to go and make a background research of any company and role you're applying for. And last but not least, be cool. Be a cool person to hang out and work with. The thing is that even if you're not the absolute best of the selection, if you're normal and fine to be with and work with, they will probably go for you. Also, when you'll be searching for future jobs, companies will call your past bosses for references. So don't be a dickhead. No one wants to work with a dickhead anyway. I guess that's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Click like if you liked the video, and be a cool person and subscribe. There's a new video every Monday, so keep checking. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't be a dickhead. And I'm really sorry that this video is like all and everything inside, but we're in London.